Welcome in to the I-80 Boys podcast. I am the best looking host on this show, Chris Vaca, and this Joe Twister over here is...
Well, first of all, best looking, so subjective. Maybe the oldest, by God. I mean, but they don't call me El Guape Suave for nothing.
Yeah, you are a handsome piece of man meat, Christian. There is no doubt about it.
By the way, I'm old Christian Hunt, a.k.a. The football savant on this show. Actually, I can't say football savant. Me and Chris are tied right now. I think at about 68% on the season for our picks. So, and if I'm not mistaken, Chris, we picked the same teams this week to win, right? Just about everybody?
Except for one game. So it's actually gonna decide that. And you know which game that is? It's Ohio State, Michigan. You took Ohio State, I believe, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And you took the
Wolverines, the cheaters,
the Hamburglers, right?
Yes, I did. I sure did, Christian. Speaking of that game, maybe we talk about that for a second. Would you switch your pick right now? Are you still sold on Ohio State? I know it's only been a couple days.
Chris, I'm going to tell you a couple things here. Number one, I picked this in the off season, right? Way back in the early days. Probably, what was it? Around April, May?
Yeah.
Maybe even March, somewhere in there. I was on Ohio State.
Okay.
I'm still rocking with him, Chris. Why? What would make anything different? Did somebody get suspended? Did Ryan Day cry and end up calling out sick for this week? I don't know what happened.
No. I just wanted to make sure that you were just trying to maybe get you to swap your pick here. I didn't know some guys do that. I actually last week that Utah-Arizona game, I truly wish I would have would have switched my pick when I went to bet because, like I said, I bet on Arizona. Obviously, they rolled. I took Utah on the show, so I had to take the loss last week. Otherwise, I'd still be one game ahead of you, Christian. But here we are. So, no new news that I know between that game. I just know it's going to be a good one, man. That's probably got to be the most watched football game of the weekend, probably one of the most watched football games of the year, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a truffle shuffle beer chug on this, so
that's right. That's right.
That's right. That is right indeed, Chris. I'm excited about it. At this point, I know you were talking to me before the show started today, and you asked me. You said, "Is there any college football on tonight?" And I said, "Well, I feel like it. I mean, if they had it on a Tuesday night, we had some action going on yesterday, but I felt like there had to be. And it turns out there's not. So,
no.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to watch basketball, or I don't know. I have to do something to pause the time until tomorrow when Ole Miss and Mississippi State play.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of that game, does Mississippi State have a chance of that one, Christian? In the Egg Bowl?
Do you have a chance if we were to run a 40-yard dash right now to beat me? Sure.
No, sure. I wouldn't have a chance at all. You'd smoke me in a 40. You'd trip me off the line or jump on top of me. I don't know. I couldn't get you off me. I know that.
The same way that your chances of beating me in a 40-yard dash. I think that's the same thing with Mississippi State's chances right now. Look, I don't think they were great with Zach Arnett. You know what I mean? I really don't.
True. I don't even know who's filling in right now over there.
I don't know either, to be honest with you, because they played Southern Miss last week, so. Listen, I think. I mean, what does Mississippi State do well? I guess that's the real question I have. What do they do well? And I'm not trying to bash on Mississippi State.
No, I don't. I mean, I know under Leach they wanted to throw. They threw the ball a ton, right, with Will Rogers, like a shit ton.
Yeah,
they didn't do that as much this year. I know they didn't, but I think Will Rogers is still hurt. Somebody can correct me on that, but I know they had that other kid in there. He was more of a running quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Anyway,
who was it? Mike Wright? Vanderbilt transfer?
Let me look right now. Give me a second here. It would have been Mike Wright. Yeah, you're right. Correct.
Vanderbilt transfer.
Okay. He's got some wheels on him, though.
Yeah, he does, man. I mean, he was pretty solid at Vandy. I was shocked to see him transfer, but hey, you live and you learn. I mean, I guess he wanted to go play football and not play school, like my boy old Stetson, and so hats off to him. No, in all seriousness, though, I can't look, I know Ole Miss, their defense has been super suspect all year. I don't think, again, I don't think that changes in this game. I think they might give up 21 points.
Okay.
Right? But that's an offense that struggles to put up, 14 or 20 points in games that matter. So, but it's the Egg Bowl too. So weird shit always happens on Thanksgiving Day, right? I mean, guys don't take it as serious. I mean, weird things always happen. I feel like in these rivalry weekends where just the preparation just almost is off a little bit, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with Thanksgiving, anything like that. I just was, like I said, I didn't mean to make a 10-minute speech out of this game by any means, but I know this thing has been close in the past, you know what I mean, at times, and I know these teams are been playing each other for a long time. I just didn't know if you were leaning one way or the other. So,
I bet on Ole Miss. I'll tell you that right now. By God,
amen, brother. I did too. So, yeah. Anyway, that by the way, that's the only game on tomorrow. It's crazy, college football. So.
Well, that's the appetizer to the main course on Saturday.
Yeah, that's true. You're not wrong.
Or sorry, Friday, I should say. Friday and Saturday. Keep forgetting today's only Wednesday.
Weird week, man. Weird week.
Weird week. Speaking of a weird week, Wake Forest coach said he was perplexed by Notre Dame's love for Hartman. Click on this here. Yeah, I mean, he basically went on to say, Chris, that he thought, they were just dating where, he's just had a short cup of tea over there at Notre Dame. But at Wake Forest, they built him. They developed him. They made Sam Hartman. And he was, I think, kind of pissed that, Notre Dame wanted to celebrate him in their senior day, which he's a player that's a senior, at a program. I mean, tell me you're bitter without telling me you're bitter, right?
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of a jealousy thing. I mean, probably wishing he was still playing with Wake Forest. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Sam Hartman's all-time ACC passing touchdown leader, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe that's correct, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, by the way, speaking of Sam Hartman and a little NFL, Christian, where would you take him in the draft? Where would you put him? What range of quarterbacks? This draft class is loaded. We all know that. Where would you put him? Rank him sort of right up there with who?
It depends on how he does at the pro day, the underwear Olympics or combine, I should say too. To me, I think he's a best case, if he has a strong combine, he does something that wows you, and teams fall in love with him. Maybe a Will Levis type situation, right? Okay. That's his upside, I think. Okay. I would say realistically, he's probably going to be maybe anywhere from 3rd to 5th round.
I like that. That's exactly what I would have said myself. I was just kind of curious your thoughts on him. I thought Sam Hartman would have had a better year this year. To be honest, I think a lot of people did. I think Notre Dame fans expected a big year, but they've had, a couple losses that, were tough. The Ohio State one was really good. That was a really good football game. Yeah, Hartman, against Louisville, I mean, he looked terrible in that game. He threw like 3 interceptions, I think. I'm just curious. So yeah, just with this draft class, especially this quarterback class, man, it's a lot of people are talking. This might be one of the best ones since like the Elway, Marino, Jim Kelly, I think it was 83. So, I mean, there's a lot of good quarterbacks. And Christian, I mean, me and you play fantasy football. We watch a lot of NFL as well. But there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks out there in the NFL. There's probably, 20 of them that got a job and about 12 teams still kind of looking for somebody.
Oh, yeah. Like you said, I mean, 12 teams still looking for somebody. And, I mean, even those 20, like, you're always looking for a backup quarterback. I mean, guys get hurt all the time. I mean, but it's like you said, Chris, I mean, you're one play away from having to be led by, I don't know,
Browning,
Tim Boyle
right now.
Oh God, no, Tim Boyle. I think Browning will do okay. He's not going to be the best quarterback, but he's better than whatever they got out there in New York. Possibly, dare I even say, both New York football teams. Yeah.
Where did what the hell is that? He's got like an Italian last name. The kid for the Giants. Where did
DeVito? Syracuse, and I think he transferred to, was it Illinois?
Okay. That's actually, I think you're right. So I was just curious. You're really good about player movement and remember where guys always played at. So, okay. Yeah, he's
Yeah, he had one good game, against the Commanders, but
he did play really well. I think he threw 3 touchdowns. He actually played really well. Surprised a lot of people. They were like 10-point underdogs in that game, and they actually blew the doors off Washington.
No, it screwed me. I got Brian Robinson on fantasy. I needed him to win so they could be in a positive game script and keep running him.
Right.
Didn't matter.
You still got
won.
12 out. You still got 12 out of Robinson. Quit crying.
I did, but it's not. You're always on pins and needles with that.
Yeah, you're always on pins and needles on Christian's team. 1 week he's fire sale. Next week Joe Mixon's is his hero. So I mean, come on.
Damn right, son. Joe Mixon and a job, as they say out there. So
yeah. By the way, if you ever want to trade George Pickens, you got about another week yet, buddy.
I don't think anybody will. Well, I don't know. We'll see. No Matt Canada. We'll see what happens.
Oh, damn. I never thought of that, dude. That's a good. They got rid of him, didn't they? I saw that. Yeah.
They did. I still don't think you start him, depending on who you are. I still don't think you start George Pickens right away. I think you just let it kind of see what happens over the next couple of weeks.
They got to open up that playbook, though, a little bit, right? I mean, you have to. You can't look any worse on offense, Christian, than they have. They look like the college version of Iowa.
That's a pretty accurate statement, I would say. Great defense, terrible offense, struggle to move the ball up and down the field. Right. I agree with you. I think, but here's the worst part of it though, is Iowa. Like at least the thing with Iowa is they don't have to comparatively. Like what's the best player on Iowa's offense?
That's a good question.
You know what I mean? Like you look around and you look at the pieces that the Steelers have, and you're like. And they shouldn't be that bad.
Oh, I agree.
They're loaded like everywhere.
No, they are. That's actually a good question. Who is Iowa's best offensive player? I know they got a tight end.
I guess their running back, is it Johnson, dare I say?
There you go. Yeah.
Or Williams or something like that. I could be wrong, but I know it's the running back. He was a true freshman last year. I thought he did pretty well. He looked pretty explosive. But that's the other thing, too. We'll touch on it a little bit later on. Look at Iowa. They're not – it's like over the last 4 or 5 years, they've just gotten worse at running the football, which is their bread and butter. They've always been able to kind of account for not having, elite wide receivers, not having elite quarterbacks, having really good tight ends, if I'm being honest. But they've always been able to get around that. You could make the argument they got around it this year.
Oh, no, I actually –
and last year, too, yeah.
Well, I mean, they're 9-2. That's not bad. By the way, it's LaShawn Williams, and then they got Caleb Johnson, both of them. So there you go. I couldn't
Johnson and Williams
either. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Chris, looking at something else here, James Madison dropping their plan for legal action to get a bowl bid. It's kind of ironic. This happened a week after they lost.
Yeah, to App State. I don't understand why though they even have this thing in place. With these teams that come from, I mean, James Madison is a pretty goddamn good football team. I mean, for a non-con, you know what I mean, team. I don't understand why they can't go play a bowl. I never even knew that thing existed until a couple weeks ago. I thought that was kind of stupid. They got 2 years without a bowl game coming over out of D2 or whatever. It's weird to me, man. I don't even know why does that matter.
Yeah, what's the purpose of that? You know what I mean? Like, you would give it like you're going to give somebody that plays out there in the Sun Belt or somebody that plays in the MAC, you know what I mean, or whatever have you. You're going to give them a bowl game.
Yeah.
If they get 6-7 wins, but you won't give somebody that just joined the conference if they could somehow figure out a way to get 6-7 wins a bowl game. I think that's stupid. Yeah, I mean you're right. They're 10-1.
So I don't blame them for fighting this. I think it's actually a crazy thing that they've accomplished coming right out of D2 and then winning a bunch of games in D1. And then that would suck. You don't get to play for a bowl game. Well, I mean, what a shitty deal that is for the Dukes, I think is what their mascot is.
Well, okay, so last year, I think it was last year too, we saw, well, yeah, it was last year. James Madison upset teams last year. Yeah. I want to say James Madison at certain points was upsetting teams prior to this.
You're probably right. I think you are right about that. That's just crazy to me. That you know what I mean? I don't blame them for fighting this. Again, the NCAA is a fucking joke, and it's just embarrassing. Because like I said, good for the Dukes, man. Give them a goddamn bowl game. Play Nebraska
give them a game
when we win this week.
I'm sorry, what? Because I'm sorry, what? Oh, Jesus. Big blow to the Husker defense Friday. What's going on? What happened? We might have went live too early here yet. Let's see what happened. Heinrich tore his ACL after being tripped Oh, okay, the linebacker.
Oh yeah, we'll be all right there though. We'll be all right there. I'm not. He's a good. Heinrich is a good player too, but that I did not know. But I think we'll be okay though. One thing about Nebraska this year, they've done a good job defensively. Anybody that's went down, they've pretty much reloaded with somebody else. So that sucks though. You never want to see anybody get hurt, obviously. So
Yeah, I think that's. Well, listen, when Brock Bowers went down, who was one of Georgia's best players, it was something me and Chris had talked about, and I thought, oh shit, we've got pivotal matchups coming up. This is going to be bad. I think long term, you never want to see anybody get hurt, but I think this gets you. I mean, if there's two positions that you guys are probably the most experienced in, it would be inside linebackers, right, Chris? Mm-hmm. With Reimer and Heinrich.
Yeah. Yep. No, we do. We got, and the other names on the tip of my tongue that we got back there that plays quite a bit too.
Sherman.
Oh, we got Wright, Javion Wright, and I got another guy that rotates in too. That's really good. Wright plays in or outside, but still, no. I think we'll be fine there. I like I said, don't get me wrong. That's a big blow, but it's better than, let's say, one of our running backs again. And we're really hurting there. We're on our 5th and 6th string running backs right now, basically. No, like I said, don't want to ever see anybody get hurt though. So.
No, you don't want to see anybody hurt. But the silver lining to that is you're going to get guys experience. A couple. Well, at least one more game of experience. Worst case. So look, here's the other thing too, right? I know this sounds crazy, but I think you got to win this one to get a bowl game, right? But let's say they do win it, right? And you go to play the bowl game, like you got to start young guys, right? I would imagine.
It's kind of funny. I was watching the Matt Rhule press conference Monday, and they were kind of talking about what the bowl game would mean. Obviously, of course, the first thing everybody says is the extra 15 practices, right? I think a lot of coaches, I don't think most normal fans or people that don't follow the game as much don't realize how big that 2 weeks is. Christian, you know this, but I mean, he was kind of talking about that, and he said, that's a good position, or it's a good thing too, because we can start putting some of the younger guys in, right? Because there's a lot of guys, believe it or not, Nebraska does have a few defensive players that are looking at the NFL, and it would be a good thing for maybe, some guys do opt out playing a bowl game too, right? Because we see it all the time, especially superstar players, right? Like Caleb Williams, he ain't going to play in a bowl game. You know what I mean? He's got NFL written all over him. He's going. Not that Nebraska is littered with tons of talent like that, at every position, but I agree with you. They do. I'd like to see some of the younger guys get an opportunity to play and grow. And it's basically like an extra game, obviously. And that carries into next year, right? I mean, even if it's 1 game, 2 games of experience, that's huge. Nebraska needs that. That's one thing Nebraska's lacked a ton of over the years is depth.
Yeah.
Depth.
What about Runyon Buckley moving from D-line to O-line? That was interesting. I'm assuming that was supposed to be O-line. I don't even know who the fuck that is, if I'm being honest.
I don't.
But I'll be honest. I'm sure Chris might agree with this. At this point, nothing can hurt. They got to develop the guy. They got to eventually develop alignment. I mean, when was the last guy you guys had? Juergens? Cam Juergens?
Yeah. Poor Teddy Prohaska. He's a guy that just he gets hurt. They need to put some size on him. He's a big dude, but I mean, as far as muscle wise, but yeah, I don't know if you were going with the NFL thing, but yeah, Nebraska hasn't put out many O-line. We used to be known for that, kind of like Iowa is, putting out offensive linemen. And if they, this guy, they need to, if that's what they need to do. One thing me and Christian talk about a lot off air is the pass blocking of Nebraska. I mean, it's something that really, really needs to improve. Christian, you always make this, maybe you can explain it, but you talk about, you're a big guy, but you talk about, O-line play. A lot of kids in high school can run block, right? But pass blocking is a totally different. You hear them talk about the NFL all the time. That's one of the hardest things to do.
Well, run blocking, you said it. I mean, it's all technique based, right? But I feel like run blocking, if I could say it like this, run blocking is more physical aggression, get downhill, put hands on you, and drive you off the ball. Pass blocking is more skill based, right? It's all it is. It's more skill based. You have to step back. You're now on the defensive side of it, and someone's coming to attack you. So it takes a lot to be able to develop somebody to get good at that. It takes years, right? A lot of high schools, they're more predominantly run based, I would say. Just because it's so hard to find someone that can, be, that Caleb Williams or, insert whatever good quarterback you want to be in a high school. Now they've got some good quarterbacks out there, don't get me wrong, but the offensive line, just like we were talking about, they're probably not getting developed at pass blocking at that level either, right? So there's always a trade-off with it. I think it's so hard to develop them.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I think one of the biggest thing about pass blocking, and I'm not going to speak on it a ton because I'm not an offensive lineman, nor was I, but like your footwork. You know what I mean? You hear the NFL talk about your footwork, how quick those guys are with their feet because they got to move because you're trying to block a guy like Micah Parsons. Oh my God.
God, dude.
Aaron Donald, guys like that. Like they're so goddamn big and fast. You got to be able to move. It's amazing. Some of the size of those guys, how quick their feet are. It's actually crazy. Especially at that level. And getting back to Nebraska. Yeah. They need to be better. I think most people would agree their pass blocking has been pretty shoddy for quite a while now.
Yeah. Pretty sure Grant's done, right, for the year?
Yes. I'm pretty sure. And he's a senior this year, right? I'm pretty sure he is. He was a JUCO player that we had gotten from. He was recruited by like Florida State out of high school and stuff. Grades were terrible, if I'm not mistaken. I think Kyler was telling me this. That then he went to like a JUCO school, got his shit together, came here last year as a junior, if I'm not mistaken. And Mike, Omaha Westside looked great last night. Their quarterback looked freaking amazing. I did watch a little bit of that. I didn't watch the whole game, but man, he looked good too. And Mike says, yes, I believe he's a senior. Yeah, he's old. I was going to say Grant's been around for a while. Struggle with grades a lot. I do know that. I like him. I think he's a good back. Unfortunate. The biggest problem with Anthony Grant on the field is he fumbles the ball a lot. That's the problem.
Yeah. By the way, there's another Anthony Grant that plays soccer who's like 36 years old. So that's why I was laughing when you guys were talking about that. I'm like, well, you give Stetson Bennett a hard time for it, just at age 36. Current teams, the Prowley Prowlers or whatever, and fucking Nebraska Cornhuskers. But yeah, moving on here a little bit, Chris. We touched about this a little bit, right? Michigan State, their athletic director, we got sources according to ESPN here coming out saying he wanted to part ways with Tucker in the preseason. If you go on to read that article, it's also talking about he knew about this whole sexual assault thing going on in the preseason. So my question is, he knew about it, chose not to do anything about it for a whole month after that or a couple months after that, and then watched the product on the field and said, oh, now we got to fire him. See, I totally think that, and maybe you have a different opinion here, but I totally think that, allegedly this whole thing might have been a setup.
I agree with you. I know we don't agree often, just kidding, but no, I said this, I didn't know that part, and there's going to be more details come out over time about this whole fucking thing, but I'm with you 100% on this because I think they set him up with that chick doing what she did. Now, I'm not condoning what Mel Tucker did, but I also don't want to get into the details of this just because it's probably not something we need to talk about a ton about the details about. But I think they wanted him out of there last year, and I think this was set up by Michigan State. I truly believe that because of and a lot of people are going to go, well, what do you mean? They signed him to probably one of the dumbest contracts you could sign to somebody. Now, I don't think Mel Tucker's a terrible coach. That's not what I'm saying. But it was ridiculous amounts of money. And I think they realized, holy shit, this guy probably not that caliber of coach yet to be able to pay him that kind of money. We need to get him out of here. And this is how they kind of got out of it, right? They did it this way so they don't have to pay him. Now, he is going to go to court. Normally what happens in a situation like this, they end up splitting it, right? He'll get half of it. And that's usually how that settles out, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think this is just giving him more ammunition. I mean, again, it just says sources. So, that just basically means anybody could say anything. I could call ESPN tomorrow and probably say, well, I don't know. And then I'll end up as sources. So we don't really know. Colorado quarterback says, Sanders not feeling well day to day.
Oh, Colorado. Everybody knows that's my team, right? Who do they play this week, Christian? Who the hell do they play?
I don't know. I stopped.
Let me take a look here because I have Colorado Buffalo fans owe us an apology, a big one actually. Christian and I preseason said 3-4 wins this year would be great. It's probably where we got him pegged. They're at 4. A lot of people having them going 7, 8, 9, 10 wins, possibly winning fucking title.
They're playing
Utah.
Good. Yeah.
That's a loss. If Shedeur Sanders doesn't play, it's he's out. By the way, he got banged up in that game last week, or was it last week? I think he got banged up pretty good too when against Washington State in that game.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they'll even play him. I mean, Colorado's not making a bowl game. Obviously, even if they win this game, they're not. What would be the point of hurting him further? Now, I know it says that he's sick, so I don't know. That poor guy's been sacked 56 times this year. That's insane.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. I mean, they're not going to a bowl game. You know that he's going to come back probably, and he's going to be your guy next year. If look at this point, if you are Colorado, there's 2 things you need to do: get healthy, go into next year, and get more depth. I mean, that's really what they need to do, and they're going to benefit from going to the Big 12 and getting in that conference. You know, something we had touched on, Chris. I think at a certain point of the season, we thought, Colorado will go over there; they'll just run roughshod over the Big 12. But here's the thing: Arizona's going with them.
Yeah,
and Jed Fisk, the coach at Arizona, he's going to come up on a lot of. He's gonna probably be linked to a lot of programs. But if Arizona can figure out a way to keep him, I don't think they will. I don't know if they will. But if they could figure out a way to keep him, they got a young quarterback. Their defense looks pretty good at certain points this year. I've thought Arizona might be a dark horse next year for the Big 12.
I agree with you. Arizona came out of nowhere this year, and if you guys don't know what Jed Fish has done, man, because he's a real football coach, unlike Deion Sanders, in my opinion. He took his program 2 years ago that was 1-11, turned around to 5-7 last year. I believe they have 8 wins currently. That's impressive. This guy, I would assume, Christian, a lot of programs out there are looking at him. I would assume. I think he's a younger guy, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know his whole history, so don't quote me on that. But if he can stay with them, man, I was looking at defensive stats, by the way, Christian, before this. Arizona's way up there in defense, too. It's not only if they impressed offensively this year, their defense is pretty damn good, especially playing over in the Pac-12 where there's all those elite quarterbacks.
Yeah. I mean, that's, who would have thought, right? I mean, we knew that the Pac-12's always had good offenses, but who would have thought they'd eventually have some teams in the last year of the conference come out and play defense? I mean, there's 3-4 teams now that I think are really complete teams. And I mean, we were talking about UCLA, Oregon. They both are, they're up there as far as defensive stats are concerned this year. And one of the toughest conferences, I think, as far as shutting down offenses right now is concerned in the Pac-12. I'm very impressed, like I said, with some of those teams out there in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Pac-12, Jonathan Smith, the Oregon State coach, some people, Mike saying, according to some folks on 24/7, Michigan State wants to hire him.
Would he leave?
That would make sense to me. I feel like, right?
Is Oregon State one of the 2 teams that's left behind in this whole thing?
Oh, I thought Oregon's maybe they are.
I think they are. Isn't it them and Arizona State are the only 2 teams left?
Nah, I think Arizona State's going to was it the ACC or the Big 12? I thought
Big 12 is. Stanford I know is going to the ACC. Somebody can comment and let me know there. I thought Oregon State, though, who we're talking about, I think they're left out.
It's Washington State, isn't it?
Oh, it is Washington. You're right. It's Washington. It's Wazoo. Yep. That would surprise it wouldn't surprise the shit out of me, I guess, if he does leave. Yeah, I mean, what are they going to do with those 2 teams?
Yeah, Oregon State and Washington State. So,
okay, you're right.
Yeah, they're left there. Yeah, they're left sitting in the Pac-2 right now. Yeah, they're in no man's land, dude. So if I was him, I would. It sounds terrible. I mean, they'll figure something out, I guess. But I hate to say it, I would probably jump ship, go to Michigan State. Right, the rich get richer.
Yeah, one thing about Michigan State, I will say this: they have a lot of money. I know Michigan State probably hasn't had the craziest history of making playoffs or anything like that in college football, but man, that they have a deep fan base over there. They're a program that wants to win. If you guys remember, Nick Saban coached there at one time, so yeah, I do know that would be a good fit, man. And yeah, that's interesting. I kind of feel bad for Oregon State, man. I thought he's done a great job there. They're a good football team. They play pretty good defense too, Christian. Another team in the Pac-12 that plays pretty solid defense, plays teams tough. It'll be interesting to see what they do what are they going to do? Move all those Mountain West teams over to the Pac-12 then? Is that what they're going to do with those? That's a weird deal going on over there.
Probably. I mean, more than likely, that's what I would think. I mean, they got to play somebody. They got to do something. Or they'll just become independents.
Yeah, be the Notre Dame of the freaking world. God, I hate that shit.
Yeah.
Conference. Pussies.
Well, it's worked out for Notre Dame.
Yeah, I still do.
Kind of.
I mean, kind of, though, because, I still hate that, though. I don't believe in that. Everybody else has to play in a conference. Why don't you? It's Notre Dame. They're America's team, and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, I agree. I get it, Chris. I get it. It's America's team. It's Notre Dame. It's a lot of things. We got Gator Swag out here talking about Dan Mullen. That's how you know. That's how you know it's going to be a good week. Dan Mullen's everywhere.
Yeah, he is, dude. This guy is. Is that true, Swag? Is that 4-1 odds? He's going to land that job? Going to Syracuse?
Thing I like is Dabo to Texas A&M. Now that is something that Chris would hate it if that happened because I think I told him. I think I said that first. I was like, dude, Dabo's going to Texas A&M. He's like, no, the fuck they're not.
No, I hope they don't. I just think it's crazy that I think he fits so well with Clemson. I do. I get it. I know there's been a lot of drama between him and the fans. I get all that. What would happen? I mean, who would Clemson go get then? That's the thing. Clemson, I think, is standing there holding the bag, man.
Dan Mullen. I don't know. I mean,
Mullen ain't nothing.
No,
I'd rather hire Christian Hunt. God, get
Oh, I don't know, dude. I mean, I don't know who they would go get at this point. I mean, that's the thing. That's the coaching carousel getting ready to kick off.
Would it be Riley then? The
Lincoln Riley or Garrett Riley?
Garrett Riley. The offensive.
I would. I mean, if it was me, I would. I mean, the thing about Lincoln Riley, you said, hey, he's probably gone to the NFL. A lot of people don't even think he's going to have a job in the college ranks this year. So he might, he may not even have a choice, dude. He might have to do something there.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop you there, Christian.
Yeah.
Would you get rid of him right now if you're USC? After 2 years?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I wouldn't, but I would have to see within the next. And this is gonna sound crazy. I know what I'm getting ready to say. They're going to a new conference in which they play a lot of defense. Caleb Williams is probably going to be gone. They're going to be breaking in a young quarterback and young players, and a new defensive coordinator. I would say in 2 years. I'm going to give you 2 years. If you can show me that you can go to the Big Ten and you can compete and you can improve on defense and still have explosive offenses and play competent football all around, hey, man, great job. If not, you know what I mean? Because, can you really, okay, so they get a new defensive coordinator. We know it takes a couple years of defensive coordinators coming in to get really established and to get their guys in and to lay the groundwork out. So I almost can't even judge the defense next year. I'm really going to be more or less looking at the offense going into the Big Ten, saying, can they still score? Can they still look explosive as they've looked in the past?
Okay. That's a good point. I just wanted to ask you that and see where you kind of stood. I think they'd be crazy to get rid of him yet. The guy, I mean, offensively is a genius. I mean, he's got 3 Heisman candidate quarterbacks he's coached now. I mean, under his tutelage,
oh yeah.
And they got Jerry Rice's son playing for. I mean, he's got elite talent at USC. You want to talk about?
He does.
You want to talk? I was thinking about this the other day. You want to talk about a team that just underachieves is USC overall. I mean, they have more talent than they have just as much talent as Georgia. I mean, these guys get, they might have more. I mean, it just shows a lot about coaches and what they can get out of players. I mean, my God, USC has a ton of talent, but they don't do anything with it. I mean, if you really want to talk about it, They don't, he's never made a playoff. He did with Oklahoma. They got their doors blown off. It's just crazy to me how much talent that guy can get at a school, though. He added Oklahoma, too. He had a ton of talent there, too.
Oh, I agree with you. If you go back, like you were touching on there, Chris, if you lined up all of, they do that when you go to colleges and stuff like that. You walk and you see the wall of honor and stuff like that. And you're like, holy shit, yeah, this guy, that guy, that guy. Oh, damn. Lincoln Riley, when it's all said and done, might have, if you combined all of his pieces, might have one of the best offensive coaching jobs and offensive players, I think, in the country. Like ever.
Yeah.
The problem is, like you touched on, Chris, it's fantastic, right? They can put up 40, 30, 40 points, 50 points a game, but they can't piece the defensive part together. And ultimately, if he went to the NFL, I think would be what would cost him. And if he stays in college, I think that's going to be what ends up getting him fired if he can't figure it out.
Yeah, I think it's a philosophy thing with him. He's going to have to change some things if he wants to get. Would you want to go be his defensive coordinator? I know I would.
Yes.
Oh man, I wouldn't. I wouldn't touch that. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole, bro.
1,000%, I would.
Why?
Well, like you said, it's a philosophy thing, right? So
it starts with him, though.
They've got the. Well, yeah, it starts with him, but they've got the players. Here's the thing: if I was interviewing for that job, this is exactly what I would say. Look, it's very evident that there's a physicality that's missing there. So what we have to do is, because we've got good players, you guys have great players. We have to basically teach them to be physical. Like I said, here's what we're going to do. The very first thing I would do if I took over tomorrow and became the defensive coordinator for USC, assuming Lincoln Riley was still there, is I would say, all right, Lincoln, let's line the ball up at the 1 yard line. We're going to run some goal line defense. I want you to sneak the ball, and I want to see if they can stop it. If they can't stop it, we're going to run all fucking practice. That's the very first thing I would do. We're going to have a 2-hour-long cardio session if you can't stop them. You get one shot. I'm going to send a message very clearly, very clear, very strong, very early on. This isn't going to be like last year, right? We're going to be really, because there's so many things that play into it. It's not that they need to be bigger, stronger, or faster. It's that they need to be smarter. The other side of it too, Chris, is, guys are looking lost out there. They're getting beat by people that aren't even as talented as them. They're just getting beat.
No, I agree with you. I just think it's more, I don't think they care. I don't think defense is even a fucking thing under Lincoln Riley. It's like, we got to go out there and play defense. It's that SoCal laid back mentality, man. I swear to God, it's just, that's what it looks like to me watching them. You got Bear Alexander out there, a guy that you know a lot about, that started at Georgia as a freshman. You know how many freshmen started at Georgia on the D line? Very fucking few. And he was awesome. Now he's out there and you don't even bring his name up. It's weird. No. I'm all for players transferring, but I'll never understand that move. I won't, because he would be, God, put him on Georgia's defense right now. If you guys had him this year,
we don't want him.
That good, man.
We don't want him.
No, you don't have to. No. But
that's a lie. That's not true. I would have loved to have Big Bear Alexander. I think the right scheme and the right system, people that can push and motivate him, he probably would be good. I think, like you said, though, right? You go to USC, it's a different thing, man. It's a little more laid back. They got to do something to kind of get their attention and change the culture out there, I feel like.
Right.
Just like Kirby Smart going to the Atlanta Falcons, right? It's going to be changing the culture, right? It'll never happen, right? Nor do I want it to happen.
Kirby Smart's not an NFL coach, even though I think he'd be successful. I don't know. He's where he belongs.
I think we're going to see this is what I think ultimately with the coaching carousel this year, Chris. I think we're going to see a major change in the thought pattern behind it, right? I think we're going to see more first-time coaches, more coordinators getting shots this year than maybe in years past. I think there's going to be a ton of openings. I think there's going to be some big names that are going to be coming out of the booths and going to be doing some things. Like, it wouldn't shock me if we saw, I said it, Jimbo to West Virginia. It wouldn't shock me if we saw Urban Meyer to Texas A&M if, for whatever reason, Dabo falls through. There's so many different little things out here I feel like you could see that start to happen this off season, right? Tony White, they've linked him to Syracuse. They've linked them to your defensive coordinator. They linked him up there to, was it San Diego?
Yep. Yeah, I think you're right. I think there'll be a lot. I mean, there's going to be a lot of movement regardless. I hope you brought up Tony White, man. I do not want to see him leave. I'd like to see him at least stay another year. He's done a great job here at Nebraska. He really has. I mean, Nebraska was like by far bottom quarter of the country last year in defense in any stat almost. They're almost in the top 15 and everything else this year. I'd love to see him come back, man. We need him, man. He's done a great job, and I think he brought something that we haven't had here in Nebraska in a long time. Guys play hard, man. Guys hustle the ball. I haven't seen that in any years under the Frost era. So very proud with what he's done. By the way, man, I want to talk about this real quick. You see our big boys this year, Ty Robinson, Hutchmaker, man. They're a problem up there, man. Those guys are good football players, dude. I was really surprised. I mean, they're big boys, but they cause a lot of problems for teams, man. I was happy they used those guys in the right way finally. You know what I mean? That size, create a double team. They've done a good job.
Yeah, I think, I thought they've done a fantastic job too. Robinson, Hutchmaker, like you said, I think they've done pretty well. I think Lenhart, he's a freshman, defensive edge rusher you guys have. The front seven to me is not the problem. The defense, I think, as a whole is not the problem, right?
No.
Like we touched on. Now, hyphen. I think that here's the thing. I think depending on who they play, and this might get a lot of fans in trouble, Chris, it's something you've touched on a lot too. Like if they had to play, for shits and giggles, if they had to play Penn State or Ohio State and USC in the same season, it might look a little different.
No, you've heard me say it, right? They get propped up by as bad as the Big Ten West is. I agree with you. But I like I said, overall, I'm just happy because they were so – if you took last year's offense and put it with this year's defense, Nebraska would have won 8 or 9, 10 games this year, honestly. That's with the schedule that we had. It's just crazy that they've turned it around in a positive way, like, for us Nebraska fans, which defense is kind of weird here. 2021's defense was awesome. Offense was terrible. Last year, offense was decent. Defense was absolute garbage. This year, offense is terrible. It's been its yo-yo effect of it's hard to watch. You don't know what you're ever going to get with Nebraska year in and year out, it seems like. So, but yeah, you talked about Tony White, man. I do hope he stays. But yes, he is one of those coaches that's pretty highly sought after, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think we'll see, man. It'll be interesting to see. Tony White, there's so many different moving pieces this offseason, Chris. It's going to be interesting to see, as we approach that almost 50-minute mark here, about 47 minutes. Chris, I think I'm ready to go enjoy Thanksgiving, Bo. What about you?
Yeah, man, I am too, bro. I don't think I have much more to add. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Gator Swag. Thank you guys for coming in. We appreciate it. By the way, Christian said it in the chat, happy Thanksgiving, guys. Be safe. Do I have anything else to add to you guys? Go Huskers, and I'll say it again because it keeps working for Christian. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs, go Gators, go everything like that. You know what I mean? We're not playing this week. Hopefully Florida does what they got to do this week, and by God, they take care of business. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But guys, happy Thanksgiving. We'll be back on Saturday morning for our preview show and the recap. A wild week of college football. We'll see you then. We can't wait.